Hey everybody, Steve Foster here. I'm out practicing round bout with some of my rimfire pistol guns. Alright, let's talk about a concept. This is my CWA open gun. I want to talk a little bit about pre-travel and then take up on the trigger and what I call prepping the trigger. When I'm doing instruction, I talk a lot about prepping the trigger, especially on stages like pendulum and speed option. Alright, so this is my CWA gun. See that pre-travel? It's just, I don't know, maybe 1/16 of an inch. And then the trigger breaks, I don't know, right around just under 2 pounds. And it's got a very short reset. It comes out another maybe 32nd of an inch. But with a gun like this, with such a light trigger pull and not a lot of travel in the firing mechanism, it's easy to keep your shots on target. It's pretty quick follow-up. With a tougher trigger pull or a heavier trigger pull with not a lot of pre-travel in it, when you got your gun up there, you're just squeezing the trigger. When you're moving from plate to plate, there's less sight disruption, all right? So that's my CWA gun. Sometimes when you're shooting, you gotta get back to some of the fundamentals and basics of shooting and really enjoy shooting, so hey, I jumped on the bandwagon. Here's my Glock 44, which is a 22 caliber Glock that just came out. This trigger pull is probably 6.5 pounds. Yeah, so it's a little bit different than shooting my CWA gun. Maybe a little bit tough to see on video, but look at all the pre-travel. It's got to be, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch. And then once you get it to the wall, it's probably 6.5 pounds worth of pull. So when I'm out here and it's got a decent reset for a Glock trigger, it's just maybe 3/8 of an inch somewhere in there. So not too bad coming back out. But when you're trying to shoot precise targets, or even if you're trying to get on, I'm shooting roundabout to get on that first target pretty fast. What you need to do is you need to take the slack out of the travel, or slack out of the trigger, or the pre-travel. So when I'm going to shoot this gun, especially on that first plate, as I'm coming up, I'm got about 3 pounds of pressure out on the trigger. I've got all the pre-travel out of it. So once I get it up, I'm just putting another maybe 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds of trigger pull out on the trigger as I'm coming up, and the sights don't move at all. So that's one of those tips that if you're shooting, trying to shoot fast, you know, with a trigger that's 2 pounds, you can slap the trigger a little bit, sight disruption. But once you have a gun like this that's got a heavier trigger pull and there's a lot of slack in the trigger, you got to prep the trigger by pulling the trigger up into the gun, putting about, you know, a couple pounds of pressure on it. So right when you get up to that target, you're ready to crack the shot. And as you crack that shot, you let the trigger out to reset, and then you're coming in, taking out some of the slack and putting pressure on it before you get to the second plate. So once you're on the way to the plate, you're putting another couple of pounds of pressure on the trigger as you transition the gun. All right. So I think I've ran about 1,000 rounds through this gun of Eley Force. You can get this out on SteveFosterShootingSports.com. It's 8.5 cents a round. If you buy over $500, it's free shipping. And this gun gobbles it up. So what it looks like is, got to get a firm grip on it. I come up, I'm prepping the trigger, and then as soon as I get up on the target, the rest of the trigger pull's there. So I'm coming up, low ready. I've got probably a half, if not 3/4 of the trigger depressed, and it's right at the wall. And as I get on the target, I'm finishing off the rest of it, and it's a bullseye. So as I transition the gun, I let out on the trigger, and I've already got it depressed about half the weight of the trigger pull. So I'm coming up to the second one. It's right on it. All right. So as I'm coming up, I'm depressing the trigger about halfway right to the wall of the trigger. And it's about 3.5 pounds, and then I finish it off right when I get the sights lined up out on that target. So I come up, and then I come through, and then pick up the second shot pretty quick. But a lot of it is you got to take the slack out of the trigger when you've got a gun that shoots the way this does. But yeah, this thing, I'm impressed. I think it was $450 somewhere there. It's got a polymer slide. It's got a metal base that the gun or that the slide runs on, and shooting Ely Force. Haven't had a single malfunction. All right. So that's a little bit about prepping the trigger. All right. See you out on the range soon. Thanks, everybody.